Welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air, where we shine a light on local musicians, filmmakers, writers, and artists of all stripes that make their home in the neighborhood of Inwood in New York City. I'm Aaron Sims.
And I'm Jonathan Bell.
And this is Live and Local. So on Live and Local, we meet Inwood musicians. We talk about music, and best of all, we get to hear them perform live. So who do we welcome today, Jonathan?
I'm really excited to have with us today singer-songwriter Kevin Delaney. Kevin's a veteran of New York's post-punk and singer-songwriter scenes, but these days he writes and records, in his own words, quote, on a solitary iMac in the wilds of northern Manhattan, end quote. Kevin sings, he plays acoustic and electric guitars, mandolin, bass, and harmonica. He even fakes it on the keyboards, as he puts it. He's recorded 2 albums, Pause for Effect and Himalayan Moon, which Smother magazine called, quote, excellent, stirring, a must-have, and compelling, end quote. Kevin's music is influenced by many of the usual suspects, and a few unusual ones as well. We are sure happy to welcome him today to Live and Local.
And without further ado, here he is, Kevin Delaney.
Thank you, Aaron. This is a song that was written mostly about 35,000 feet above Greenland as the sun was coming up over the glaciers. If you can't get a song out of that, I don't know. Called Good Is Gone. Forever ago, I followed a rainbow on a journey I could no longer forgo. Every road leads somewhere. Where it went, I didn't care. Nowhere, somewhere when there's nothing to compare. Blink, and you'll miss me. I'm as good as gone. Blink, and you'll miss me. 'Cause I'm good as gone. Clouds on the horizon took on a ghostly hue. So I spread my wings and off I flew. Never thought it'd be so loud, rising above the clouds as the lights of home pass far from my view. Blink, and you'll miss me. I'm as good as gone. Blink, and you'll miss me. 'Cause I'm good as gone. Escape to the quiet corners as you flee the noise that borders. Outrun the fleeting feeling life could pass you by. Blink, and you'll miss me. I'm as good as gone. Blink, and you'll miss me. 'Cause I'm good as gone. All right, this is a song inspired by my theory from long ago when I came up with such theories, that if you're calling in sick and you're not really sick, you should always do 2 days instead of 1 because nobody believes you the first time. So being a hardworking fellow steeped in Judeo-Christian work ethic, I never actually tried out the theory, except for once, a long time ago. This is called 2 Phony Sick Days. hold up forever, or at least for 2 days, and draw down the curtains on the crazy world's ways. We'll call in a sick day, or better yet 2, and I'll feel for a moment I'll always have you. 48 hours in our dimly lit tower, 2 phony sick days with you to hide away. We'll cover the hourglass and hold off decisions, and I'll hold you so tight, the first rays of morning light, and the countdown resumes, and it's all over too soon. Epic moment fades, we're pulled in our separate ways. 48 hours are all that matters, 2 phony sick days with you to hide away. Once the dream spell is broken, the outside world rushes back. After the first harsh words are spoken, remember the time when we had it all for 2 phony sick days. "48 hours in our dimly lit tower, 2 phony sick days with you to hide away." Hold up forever, or at least for 2 days, and draw down the curtains on the crazy world's ways.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Great
to
having
be
you
here.
Once again, can you tell us the names of the 2 songs you just played?
Yeah, the first one was Good As Gone, and the second one was a more recent one. Might even be making its debut tonight. 2 Phony Sick Days.
Wow. And so in the vein of making debuts, does the story come before the song, or does the song come before the story?
Oh, the story goes way back. Yeah, like I said, I have a bit of a, Judeo-Christian work ethic thing going, so this, phony sick day thing doesn't really apply too much. But yes, there was a time, good while back, with my wife actually, when we first met, and we both called in sick 2 days.
And years later,
I got a song out of it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, my associations, which aren't expert when it comes to post-punk, what comes to mind?
It's not what I just played.
It was not that.
Well, that's what I'm kind of like interested in,
Yeah.
because knowing you as I do as a friend around
Yeah,
Inwood,
of course. Yeah.
you have a really quick, sharp, and acerbic wit, always good-natured.
Hopefully.
But you are also extremely, at least in the music, for me, a romantic at heart. That's what it sounds. That's what really comes through to me.
Yeah.
And very poetic. And, lines like, back, if we can remember, I'm paraphrasing, can we remember, or do you remember back when we had it all?
Yeah.
2 phony sick days. And
Yeah.
then into the sort of the light, kind of quirky remark, but always anchored, both songs, in my opinion, on like sentimental in the best sense of that word. So I was wondering if you could comment.
Yeah, I'd be happy to comment about that, because it's actually a very good question. And, it is something that I kind of strive for. It's a fine line between, getting across a real emotion and just being schmaltzy and sentimental, as you say.
Right.
And I did, I played all kinds of music over the years. I played bass in bands, I played guitar in bands, and the whole post-punk thing was very exciting, and it was great to play bass because at the time, long guitar solos were suddenly kind of uncool. So the bass was like a big part of the sound, and you could really kind of drive the band and do kind of more melodic stuff on the bass. So that was kind of a really exciting time to play bass. And I played all those, legendary rock clubs, small but legendary, like CBGB's and Trax and Maxwell's, and a lot of those places that sadly are no longer in New York. And then, I always liked a lot of different kinds of music, and I just can't stand being limited, like I only like jazz, I only like bluegrass, I only listen to, hardcore punk music, and it's all good, man. And if it, as Elvis said, it either moves me or it don't. And it all comes down to that. I don't care what kind of music it is. But, I always loved acoustic music, and I always really admired the great songwriters, as you said, the usual suspects, but, Dylan and Neil Young and, Leonard Cohen and Joni Mitchell. There's just so many of them. Of course, the Beatles were huge for me, the Byrds, a lot of those bands. They all had such a great sense of melody. And, I continue to steal Beatle chords. The astute listener might have noticed I stole a few Beatle chords in the bridge of that last song.
It'll be on Wikipedia sometime later this week.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. The lawyers Paul's lawyers will track me down, but he probably stole them from an old show tune or something. Everybody steals from everybody. But it is that fine line between, I really do try to get a real emotion across, and but not going across that line into just tacky or schmaltzy.
That's right.
Did that answer your question?
I feel like you negotiate that line very well.
Well, thank you. I try. Another thing about songwriting, you're creative guys, and you kind of throw a lot of spaghetti up at the wall. Some of it sticks, some of it doesn't, and you got to write some bad songs to get to some good ones. Yeah. And I just keep writing stuff down all the time and stumbling onto chord changes I like.
Right. Yeah. Well, these were two good ones.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And so what is the path from the downtown post-punk scene to the evergreen northern fields of northern Manhattan?
The wilds of northern, pastoral Manhattan.
Exactly.
Posh Tony.
I call it upper Manhattan, but I also call it the lower Hudson Valley. They kind of merge in Inwood. It's a very creative neighborhood, as you guys know. I mean, hell, you two guys live there. Say no more.
We do.
And, there's just so many artists and musicians and writers and, even the dog walkers are all creative. The dogs are creative in the neighborhood,
And they love music.
They do. Yeah.
Well, what kind of impact, if any, have your years in Inwood had on your songwriting itself?
Well, it's a lot of things, but it's two things really, and as I said, it's the plethora of artists of all kinds. Just being in that creative atmosphere is so great. Even just having a coffee in the cafe with the water view, and just so many people talking about arts of all kinds.
If I can interject,
yeah, sure.
A little tidbit here. It's not unusual for me to see you taking your walk through the splendors of Inwood Hill, and in my estimation, you're off somewhere coming up with a new tune. So it's like, for me at least, as an aside, the green space in Inwood is a place for me that I go to like kind of remember a tune that's percolating. So.
You took the words out of my mouth, because it's the artist, but it's also the nature.
Right.
I have a great team of colleagues scattered around the country I work with. I work as a writer for a technology company, actually, a very creative team. But they always laugh when I talk about being in Manhattan. I saw a harbor seal last night. There's a wild turkey. The coyotes are coming, and the peregrine falcons are here, and the herons. And it's not what anyone thinks about Manhattan. When people think it's Midtown, it's 34th Street, it's 59th Street, it's Times Square, but we're kind of lucky that way. We get the best of both worlds. And as you said, and I think all the artists who live up there would say, it's very inspiring. I find the nature and the quiet, I tend to get up very early. I do a lot of my writing then, and just walking around through the woods. We have actual virgin forests where the Native Americans used to live in the caves and all.
That's right.
And it's just very inspiring. So many artists have been inspired by nature. It's nothing unique to us, but we do it in Manhattan, which I suppose is unique.
Right.
Absolutely. And so, Kevin, you said earlier you have such a wide, vast array of influences. So where are you going now with your writing, and what can we expect from you with your songwriting in the future, given the variety of your influences, like the next Kevin Delaney album or projects? Where's your kind of like your groove right now?
Well, I'm always writing. I'm always writing down ideas. There's a great quote from Joni Mitchell: "If you didn't write it down, it didn't happen." So,
You need a secretary.
yeah. Well, I have a phone. I used to have a notepad. Now I have a phone.
Right.
So I'm always writing ideas down, and I always have another song percolating on the horizon. But I am definitely looking to do another album this year, and I do a lot of my recording on my own. I love doing that, on my iMac, as you said, and playing all the instruments. But, I could use a little adult supervision to take it to the next level. So definitely looking to do that in the next year.
Well, Kevin, what are you going to play for us next?
I have a song, which, funny you should ask, I wrote early one morning walking around through the trees in Inwood, very early one morning, and I was thinking about immigrants. And, every American family almost has an immigrant story. And so often, when you think about the old days, 100 years ago, a lot of those people who came to America, they gathered their life savings, and they got on a boat, and they came to America, a place like Inwood half the time, or any other, immigrant neighborhoods, and they never saw their homeland again. It wasn't like you could just hop on a cheap flight from Norwegian Air or something and fly back. So I kind of imagined a young woman in her village, and she's looking at the river going through the town, and she's thinking about how that river leads to the docks where the boats are, and maybe the years are going by, and she's in Ireland or Italy or England or Germany or Ukraine somewhere, and she's looking at that river, and maybe that opportunity to go is closing, but it's such an epic decision. I can't imagine what it must have been like to make that decision. And of course, it's not just 100 years ago. There's people migrating all over the world into Europe and America and all kinds of places, and it's really, some of them are coming by boat in terrible conditions, and they're leaving everything behind, and they'll probably never see their homeland again. So it's a real collective saga, that in the past and the present. So it's a long preamble to a song called River Road that I'm going to do.
And then, following that?
Oh, then I'm going to do a song called The Brightest Satellite.
I actually like that title. The song remains the same, but the author can't remember it. I think it's like a Guided by Voices song or something like that. I think it's really great. Or King Crimson, something like that.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
King Crimson. I love prog rock, too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure chatting. Thanks
Thank
so
you
much
for
for having
being
me.
here.
You bet. Once again, Kevin Delaney.
Where do the years go? Once they felt so slow. How do they race away? A year feels like a day. Another winter twilight. The world still turns and the ice flows melt. The swelling waters rise over the banks where you once knelt. Are you the same girl that you used to be when you walked that river road? Face the memories, feel like the same girl. walking the town where your path was set. The cobblestones never let you forget. Haunted by ancient lies, can you run from the unbroken ties? Let the waters guide the way. River leads to a brand new day. Are you the same girl that you used to be when you walked that river road and faced the memories? Feel like the same girl, but you're not. Follow the river road down to the quays where the boats are waiting. Take you across the sea. The lighthouse is calling from the rocks outside the bay. Heal your memories behind and sail far, far, far away. Walk that river road, face the memories, feel like the same girl, but you're not. So follow the river road, river road. So, when things seem a little dark, it's good to remember you can always kind of generate your own light. This is called the Brightest Satellite. Underground, alone in the pitch dark night, hidden from sight, guided by candlelight. Now the dark is in the open. Ties that bind us are unbroken. Bring our light to bear in the darkest night. Illuminate the starless sky. Be the brightest satellite. Be the brightest satellite. We'll thank our enemies for the walls that kept us so low. The gift of cunning they never meant to bestow. No more silence in the face of loss. No more exile from the cost. Bring our light to bear in the darkest night. Illuminate the starless sky. Be the brightest satellite. Be the brightest satellite. We're sleeping up a storm that that'll break down walls free form. Haunting the shadows, ghost-like. Poised for action with the first lightning strike. Bring our light to bear in the darkest night. Illuminate the starless sky and be the brightest satellite. Be the brightest satellite.
Kevin, that was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful performance.
Pleasure being here.
Always great to have you.
Yeah,
Very
great.
cool.
So where can our listeners go to hear more of your music, catch a show, or maybe purchase some tunes?
Well, I have the two aforementioned albums, Himalayan Moon, which was produced by Darius Hill, and another album called Pause for Effect. And they're available on all sorts of fine online sources like Amazon and Apple Music, and CD Baby, I believe, still has some of the old CDs in stock. And I have a SoundCloud page, Kevin T. Delaney, which is my middle name because the world is just crawling with Kevin Delaney's. They're all either singer-songwriters or journalists. The writers, the other thing that I do. So, yeah, I have a SoundCloud page, which is a lot of my music that I record on my own. But again, planning another album this year, so we'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks again, Kevin.
Been a pleasure, guys.
Absolutely. Listeners, we'll have those links up for you on Inwood Artworks On Air's website and at inwoodartworks.nyc. We want to thank Kevin Delaney again for joining us here on this episode of Live and Local for Inwood Artworks On Air. Again, we showcase the musicians that make their home in or around Inwood, New York City. So be sure to follow us at Inwood Artworks on our social media channels and on our website, again, at inwoodartworks.nyc on the web, to keep up with all we do, including other programs such as our Filmworks programs, the Inwood Film Festival and Filmworks Al Fresco, our Artworks programs, which includes curated pop-up art galleries, live performances, and a lot more coming up. So stay tuned, and also stay tuned for more editions coming up this season of Live and Local. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Aaron Sims
And I'm Jonathan Bell.
for Inwood Artworks On Air.